Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, where you get multifamily investing made real. Learn from top players in the real estate investment world as they share their secrets with you and discover proven strategies on apartment investing that actually work. To learn more about Wheelbarrow Profits, visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. Now to your hosts, Jake and Gino.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Day one, podcast one from St. Augustine, Florida. I'm doing good. 85 degrees and sunny, bro.
Is this the new Wheelbarrow Profits Southern Command? What does that make me? Am I like the Midwest now?
I don't know, bro, but it took so much pain. You talk about pain and pleasure, a lot of pain to get down here. We're still unpacking. Having 6 kids is great, helps you unpack, but there's a lot of crap to unpack. So you got the pros and the cons, bro. So I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Today's guest is MC Laubscher. MC has a background in real estate investment, management, and corporate sales. In 2014, he started Valhalla Wealth Management, and his mission is to help as many people as possible eliminate the control banks and financial institutions have over their lives. So without further ado, MC, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Honored to be on your show.
Hey, it's our pleasure. Tell us why you started Valhalla Wealth Management.
Yeah, so just a little bit about me. I have a little. Your listeners might hear a different accent, so it's not a southern one or a Pennsylvania.
That's South Jersey, right?
That's right. So I'm originally from South Africa. I came to the United States around 2001 with a backpack, one suitcase, a sense of humor, and a sense of adventure, and about $500. So traveled quite a little bit. From an investment standpoint, I purchased my first investment property right out of university, actually 2-bedroom, 2-bath in South Africa. So that's how I got my feet wet. I thought this is easy, right? I'm going to be Donald Trump next, right? And then the lesson started, unfortunately. So as with many investors, long story short, through my experience in Chicago, I started in multifamily investing, working in that, actually by becoming friends with a mentor. I wasn't smart enough to go out and look for a mentor myself. I didn't know it at that stage. I was very, very young, no idea that that's what I should do. Found one, became a really good friend of his, and also he became my mentor. Started working in multifamily real estate, learning the business from the ground up, basically doing, all kinds of stuff from property maintenance, turning over apartments, painting, to leasing, structuring leases, lease negotiations, negotiating with vendors of the building, to eventually going into the office, doing all of the books basically for the property, rent collections, coordinating with lawyers for evictions and all those fun things that come with real estate investments, and actually went into their acquisitions side of it that stage. Got my broker's license, saw these guys, bought and sold buildings. So I was very fortunate. It's a very, very wealthy private investor in Chicago that owned a ton of multifamily unit buildings, and then also bought and sold a lot. To answer your question, sorry, a little bit of a detour there, but yeah, I came across an investing strategy that I thought was quite unique. Obviously, in my personal development side, I probably went through a lot of the same books that your listeners might have read. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Getting Rich, and then also landed on a book by G. Edward Griffin, The Creature from Jekyll Island, which really opened my mind of exactly how money works, how the world of finance works, and what was going on. So at that time, I was introduced to the strategy that kind of like dovetailed really, really nice. And I kind of saw a challenge that a lot of people were having from an investment standpoint, utilize the strategy in my own life. And it became a mission and a purpose of mine to help as many entrepreneurs, individuals, families, small business owners, and investors to employ the same strategy within their own lives.
So, MC, what are some of those lessons that you were just talking about in the very beginning? Give us some of those lessons that you learned.
Well, the first thing is that you are by far your number one and greatest asset. You guys probably come across it too when people ask you, well, is this a good investment or is that a good investment or what should I invest my money in? And the first thing that I would say that before you invest a single cent into anything else, you should invest in your number one and your greatest asset, which is yourself, and continually invest in yourself. Seeing what these very, very successful investors were doing in the multifamily arena was constantly learning, constantly going to seminars, learning from others was another big one, right? Because we can't possibly make all the mistakes that there are to make in our short lifetime. We could try. Trust me, I have. But by learning from the mistakes of others, we can elevate our learning curve and cut down our learning time. So I would say you're the biggest asset. Learn from others. Invest in yourself constantly. I call it like the R&D in yourself, right? Set some money aside for research and development, because that's another thing that I saw too. From very wealthy and successful investors was that they put money aside to invest in themselves and their education every year, again, because they've made the decision to do that too. So this isn't something that, hey, I'm going to learn a little bit and invest in myself. This is done very purposely and with intent. There's planning around it, and there's money set aside for that. And that just ties into, the control. The biggest control for an investor is the control over yourself, because the risk isn't in an investment. It's in the investor. I've been a horrible investor and messed up a lot of deals, and I became a better investor from lessons that I learned, having more control over myself and invested in my own education and became a more successful investor. So I think those are just some of the quick things that I learned right away.
You got into multifamily. Two-pronged question. What did you like about multifamily, and what did you despise about multifamily?
What I like about multifamily was, I love to have control over investments, and the control that you have over the asset and the value of the asset is something that is very, very attractive, because really from a side and analyzing, as you guys talk about a lot, there's things that you can do to enhance the value of it. It's not determined on the market. In 2008, 2009, when single family real estate went down the roof, if you were actively managing and had increased the value of your property for the people that you serve, you could still increase the value of that asset. From a management side, being on the property management side, the multifamily, obviously there's a lot more moving parts. There's a lot more different things going on. So I would say that was a challenge, but that's also something that you can combat by finding a really, really good property manager with the necessary systems in place to combat all of these variables. Because we are working with people. It's a people business. We're serving others, and as you guys know, we are a very interesting species. So which comes with a lot of interesting challenges.
So how did you transition from multifamily into Valhalla into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it kind of dovetails. So I've always kind of been an investor. I've always been involved with real estate. I found that the dovetailing the two strategies, just to give your listeners kind of an idea, what we do is, we do utilize some insurance vehicles that we combine with real estate and other investments to enhance the qualities and the benefits of all of these vehicles. So when I saw that personally myself and did that within my own life, I love real estate. I love looking at real estate, but I found that my true purpose was to kind of teach and educate. And there's a lot of phenomenal educators and teachers out there with real estate, such as yourself, and you guys do a phenomenal job. I found where I could add a lot of value is by sharing and teaching, combining these two strategies. And that's kind of how I fell into that. I kind of started by teaching and sharing what I know and what I'm doing. As you guys know, you just start talking to family and friends, right? Saying, this is what I'm doing. And then eventually you kind of build up a client base. And then I kind of went serious about it, launched my own firm, which I'm growing and building. and which later tied into my podcast, which is just called the Cashflow Ninja, because it tied into that whole teaching thing. One thing that I learned too, might add into the first question that you guys ask, is by teaching others, I learn more and I learn from their feedback. So that's been kind of really cool. So it's tied into that, and it's been a pretty good experience. And I guess that was, a long story short, that was my purpose and my mission.
So before we dive into this specific strategy and the framework you work with, what types of investors do you like to work with or prefer to work with?
Buy and hold is really good investors for what I teach. There are some people that have utilized the similar strategies for fix and flips. Not necessarily something that I'm quite aligning with. I like cash flow, so I like to do the hard yards first, do my due diligence, put in the maximum time and effort that I have to do into a project, and then have that project pay me over and over. So buy and hold investors, it's a perfect strategy, but there are other vehicles and ways for that. So that's a very big part of my clientele.
So what is the strategy? Let's get into the strategy.
Yeah, so we utilize we basically build a system that captures your wealth. And there's really two types of vehicles that really does it very, very well. Real estate being a great one to capture wealth in, as you guys know, and then refinance, take the money out, put it into the next one. And then there's perpetual cash flow in the other one. Insurance has similar qualities to that. So we actually utilize insurance vehicles as part of this overall system, which is with mutual insurance companies. So it's actually built with it on a chassis of dividend-paying whole life insurance, which people will fall off their chair if the first time that they hear about this strategy. I know I did. My jaw hit the floor. But we do that actually because one of the things that we teach as investors, and what I've seen with very, very wealthy investors, is you always have to try and find $1, do as many different jobs at the same time simultaneously. So it's not just having your money work hard for you, but having your money do multiple things. With real estate, there's cash flow, there's a nice inflation hedge, we have tax advantages that we have. Then of course there's appreciation, and so forth. Insurance is kind of similar to the same things, where on the one side there's a predictable and certain place where money's growing predictably every year. It's in a very safe institution. One of the biggest, I would say, risks from an investor's point of view, which I can see right now, is institutional risk. To give you an example, in 2008 and 2009, if your money was with Lehman Brothers and you shorted, the S&P and the Dow Jones successfully, you were right, but your money was in the wrong place and you still lost. So it isn't necessarily just the strategy, but it's also where your money's in. So we utilize mutual insurance companies. They've been around since the mid-1800s. They have billions of dollars in excess reserves. They have a track record. They're not listed on the stock exchange. A mutual insurance company is not like a PNC company. The shareholders is the policyholders of the company, so they manage with a very long-term range view and very conservative. There's also dividends that they pay. Most of these companies have paid them for 100 years consecutively. So that's why we use them, because our money, wealth has to reside somewhere, right? There's cash flow. Money's coming from real estate investments, from other investments. Where do you put it in? The bank. Not such a good proposition these days, especially with the Dodd-Frank Act. So, we warehouse our wealth there. So it does one thing for us: predictability, security. It also has a death benefit because there is an insurance side to this. The third job that it does for us, it has the ability gives us the ability to leverage, and that's usually borrowing against our cash value, which results in a couple of things. So your money. Your cash value is still in there, growing predictably for you, where you can borrow against it up to 95% and then invest in investment real estate. Now, usually you can invest at 5%, say, for instance, from the insurance company, from their general account, and invest in a real estate property that's paying you 12% or 15% or so forth. So there's some arbitrage. The other thing, too, just with real estate is there's tax advantages. So there's tax-free growth. Dividends inside of this is also not taxed. It's looked upon by the IRS as a return of premium. So when you dovetail this, it's really no coincidence that a lot of very wealthy families and corporations actually utilize a similar strategy. I think just recently Jeffrey Immelt from GE just retired as well. And, you know, if you look at their packages, the compensation packages of a lot of the Fortune 100 companies are done through similar insurance strategies. You know, Jim Harbaugh, for the football fans out there from Michigan University, you know, if you Google in Jim Harbaugh life insurance, there's a contract with the University of Michigan. Now, people might think, what the hell does a life insurance contract have to do with this package? It's just a different strategy. It's a high-level strategy. And the one thing that I would just say to your listeners as well, when it comes from an investor's mindset, you know, you can invest in – we all pretty much have the same asset classes that we can invest in. We can invest in businesses, real estate, you know, commodities, paper assets, and now digital assets. But there's strategies for the rich, middle class, and poor, you know. So they're all different. They're all tailored different and structured different. And it comes back to the control and the risk of the investor, not the investment.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gino, I'm going to challenge you right now because he just went through, you know, a whole bunch of points. But I want to see how well you can describe the Park Place deal and how you used your whole life and how you borrowed against it to invest further into that deal. You want to take, because it's a little bit of a confusing strategy.
So one of the things he also mentioned, I forgot to mention, was when you die, that death benefit goes tax-free to your heirs. So this is a long-term strategy. It's not something you're going to do for 2 or 3 years. What he's talking is about actually creating a plan, which most people don't do. Most rich people do. Most poor people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they can't get out of it. What I ended up doing back in my early 30s, I had excess cash from the restaurant, so I was just told to start these 2 whole life plans. I didn't know what they were. All I heard was from Susie Orman, who has the low-level financial intelligence, that they're crazy. The insurance guys like MC are ripping you off. You don't want to do this because he's making tons of money on his premiums. But you know what? I stuck through it. I bought a little crappy policy back in 2001 for $5,000 a year, the premium, yearly premium, $500,000 death benefit. Look back 16 years later now, the cash value is about $100,000. But what I did with that policy was I collateralized the cash value and used it as part of the down payment for one of my properties. I didn't even take the money out. The bank used it as collateral, so I didn't have to take a loan on that property. So as that money's growing there, like he said, tax-free, I have the protection of the death benefit, which has grown to about $530,000. I'm putting in 5, and now it's accelerating because after 10 years, it's part of the break even. You start generating more income. It's not $5,000 return. It's probably about 7 to 8 now. So it's starting to really multiply. So anybody out there who's really young and who has some excess cash, ditch the pension plan, ditch the IRA, get yourself this whole life policy, only because you will always have life insurance. If you get to be 35 years old and you get cancer or you have diabetes, they're going to frown upon you. But if you're 22 years old and you're really healthy, your premium is going to be a lot less money. It's going to cost you a lot less. You can get a lot more insurance. And you know what? After 10 or 15 years, you're going to be break even. You're going to be 35 years old. You're going to say, Gino, thanks for telling me to do that because I've got $150,000 of cash value. Now, the pain points are, it feels like it's an expense because you're taking out $5,000 and putting into this policy every year, and it feels like that money's not growing. So I guess that's my long answer to the short question, but I think it's a fantastic strategy. I want MC to jump into how he goes about and tries, I guess, to convince people, because it's really about convincing people why this is good for you, because I know it's good for you, and I know it's good for anybody out there who wants to create a plan. So how do you convince people to utilize this strategy?
Yeah, I would say this, that everybody that hears this for the first time is probably very suspicious. I was too. I really researched this. I mean, I couldn't believe it because everything you hear out there is, you hear the Susie Ormans and the Dave Ramseys and all of that kind of stuff. And again, you made a very good point about it's all about mindset and the level of thinking, right? Because and this ties into your team members too, which you guys talk a lot about too. You have to understand at what level you want to play. And if you plan on building legacy wealth for your families and passing something down, that's a long-term strategy. That's not a quick at-bat, a get-rich-quick scheme. We're thinking in 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years. So if that's your goal, then you have to think bigger and think at a higher level. And that's what I challenge myself personally to do. When you look at the levers of it, and you mentioned a couple of things there. First of all, from an overall wealth management and legacy family planning standpoint, dovetailing this with other investments is extremely, extremely powerful. But not even just that. As you mentioned, the death benefit passes on tax-free to your heirs. When it hits a threshold of 11 million, well, then there's other strategies that can come into play through proper estate planning. Again, planning, long-term range and view. So I would say, everything that you've probably heard about life insurance out there isn't necessarily correct and accurate, and has been for a certain type of investor. What we do with this is, there's three types of people that this can work for. When you're very young, you have a lot of time, but you don't have a lot of money. That's a very good time to start that because, as Gino just mentioned, you can build it up. Your cash flow keeps building. Your cash value keeps building up. Then there's also people that are a little bit older. They don't have a lot of time, but they have a lot of money. There's strategies that can be utilized for them as well. There might be people in the middle, like me, a little bit, late 30s, early 40s. There's a little bit of both. There's a little bit more money, and there's a little bit of time left. So, I would say first thing is, can anyone benefit from strategies utilizing this vehicle? Yes, there's different strategies for different places. This is also not cookie cutter. This could be tailor-made to your goals. The other thing is the way that we structure this is we actually try to reduce the life insurance premium part of it as much as we legally can, and in accordance with that ties into a lot of different things, but the IRS regulations, to bump up the cash value in these policies. So this is not the same as a whole life you're going to buy from State Farm out in the marketplace, which is a PNC company anyway. So a little bit different with that. But how do I utilize this? I have three policies. The one policy that I've used, I actually used to start my financial firm. So I build up my cash value in the policy. I took a policy loan, and I utilized the funds instead of going to a bank and getting a line of credit to start my company. What is very important to know too is there's a very flexible payback period on these policy loans. So you're in control. You're the investor in control of your money. So when I didn't make a payment, say, for the first 9 months because I wanted to get my cash flow of my firm up to date before I started paying it back. You can do that. You set your own payback schedule, but you do want to pay it back. So that's one of the ways that I've utilized it. And I keep utilizing it because, as I said, you are your greatest asset there. So I invest in myself. I invest in my firm. I draw policy loans from it continuously because I know I can get a higher return than 5%. The other way that I utilize it too for investments, it has made me a better investor because I have to borrow at 5%. So now I have to be really cognizant of what I'm borrowing it for, what I'm putting it in, what my cash flow is, what my payback is, and so forth. So it's really forced and set a kind of like a guideline for me to invest. Now I've used it to invest in real estate investments. I've actually bought some digital investments in currency and invest in other companies that way. And from a real estate standpoint, and this might not be applicable to your audience, but there's still a property that I have that's not necessarily a multifamily. It's just, it still produces a nice set of cash flow for me. It is a reserve account for that property. So Yeah, so it could be utilized a lot of different ways. I've had partners of mine that have utilized it to save property taxes in. So instead of opening up an account in the bank that they just pay to the bank, and the bank, utilizes that money invested, they pay themselves the money that they would have paid in property taxes first, and then when the payments due, they draw a policy loan, pay it back, and so forth. So they kind of, all that money that flows through their personal economy, they capture, as we spoke about earlier, about capturing your wealth like you can do with multifamily real estate and some of these insurance products.
Now, I was introduced to this strategy by, and I read a big book by Douglas Andrew. That was my, really nirvana when I read that. And people were like, I don't have any extra money. Well, what I was doing is I was diverting money that was going into my 401k and my pension plan, which I can't touch till I'm 60 and it's tax deferred. I'm going to pay higher taxes. I diverted it into this strategy. Do you have any I guess, books you've written or any ebooks that you can share with us that readers can read about and say, hey, this is where I can get more information?
Yeah, so actually for your listeners, there's a book called Becoming Your Own Banker, written by Nelson Nash. And he kind of is the discoverer of the infinite banking concept as it's known. Now, becoming your own banker, I just wanted to say, is you're not becoming a bank. You're reclaiming the banking function. So that book is really, really eye-opening. And for your listeners out there, if they're interested in a copy, please reach out to me at info@cashflowninja.com, and I'll get them a copy of that book. The other thing is I have a free webinar. If they go to cashflowninja.com, be the bank /be the bank. So cashflowninja.com /be the bank. I walk them through just some of the biggest challenges out there. I walk them through the financial institutions and banking models, how they make their money, because it's really important to know, all the sides of the coin. Robert Kiyosaki talks about heads, tails, and the edge. You have to understand where everybody's coming from and everybody's interest to make sure that they're aligned. And I walk through the banking model, why it's so possible, or powerful rather, and possible for you to implement the same principles within your own life, and talk about the strategy, how to utilize it with real estate and so forth. So cashflowninja.com /be the bank is a free webinar.
I'm going to have both those links at the bottom of the show notes. So guys, at the end, you can just click on those. But I want to just circle back to just give me a couple of other wealth building myths that you have out there that you've heard from investors, because this is really a paradigm shift kind of podcast where people have never really heard this kind of stuff. I want them to read it and get it to themselves. What other myths have you heard out there?
Yeah, we covered we've kind of touched upon the wealth as a skill we should do ourselves, wealth building, not outsource. We lose all control, and we talked about how the risk is in the investor, not the investment, because all we hear out there is, hey, higher risk equals higher returns. Not necessarily. I mean, in Vegas it does, but if you're building wealth and legacy wealth, not necessarily. The other one that is a big one for me is compound interest. Now, people will hammer on this one over and over and over, and say Einstein said it's the eighth wonder of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll hear a lot about that. And listen, I love compound interest, but compound interest without the wealth eroding factors. And I think when we look at taxes, when we look at fees, so big wealth eroders, fees and commissions paid to financial professionals. That's just what it is. It's a huge wealth eroder. They've done studies, John Bogle, where just looking at returns in the market over time, fees and commissions can eat up over 2/3 of your gains, over 30 to 35 years. So yeah, there was compound interest in there. That was great. But what about the taxes that you still have to pay and the fees that was in there? So I think, and the other thing that I also say is, people talk about, it's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep and how hard that money is working for you. And that's a great statement. I will add to that statement, it's from which quadrant or how you make your money and how much you keep and how many jobs you have every single dollar do for you. And just to clarify that statement, Robert Kiyosaki talks about the cash flow quadrant, where on the left side you have the E for the employee, the W-2 worker, you have the S for the self-employed, and on the right-hand side you have the business owner and the investor, where you make your money and position your income to come from has an enormous impact of how much you get to keep. And how tax efficient it is, and also how many jobs those monies are doing for you at the same time. To give you an example, a W-2 employee on the employed pays the highest amount of taxes out of anybody. And on the other side, as the investor, you guys cover this really well on your show. From real estate investments, we've mentioned all of the benefits that they have. You just play by a different set of rules once you move over to the right-hand side of the quadrant as a business owner and as an investor. So where you're making your money from, you can make $100,000 a year as an employee or as an investor. Which one would you choose? And if you find yourself as a W-2 on the left-hand side of the quadrant, how do you get to the other side? That's a question that a lot of people ask. And that ties into, becoming a better investor and finding a way to turn the money that you receive from that W-2 paycheck as an employee and turn that into investment income. And at that stage, when you walk through the different phases of becoming financially secure, financially independent, and to financially free, then you can choose whether or not you would still want to do your job. Because, trust me, I have clients, they love what they do. That is their purpose and their sole purpose. So I wouldn't tell them to quit their job or, necessarily go out and start their own company, because that's not what they want to do. But they can take that money and turn it into investment income on the other side to be more tax efficient and economically positioned to have their money, to keep more of their money and have their money do many different jobs.
What is your best investment tip or advice for the listeners?
Yeah, I think I touched upon investing in yourself and always, always finding that, that next level or that next skill set. We live in a time right now. Some of the, it's so funny with all these degrees and, we constantly hear in the news about the college debt that students are in, which is kind of criminal. But that's a whole different podcast episode. Think about skill sets that you need to be able to serve other people and provide value for other people, and try to learn those skill sets. Because, as Alvin Toffler said, that, the illiterate, in the 21st century isn't necessarily going to be people that couldn't read or write, but people that are not willing to unlearn old skill sets and old thinking and relearn new ones. We're going to have to retool I would say almost every 6 months. You have to take a skill set inventory of yourself as an investor, and just how to provide value from others, because things are changing so quickly. Just look at what's happening out there in the world right now, as far as from a digital age, from a marketing standpoint. If we're in the real estate business, marketing channels, marketing is changing. I don't even think they're teaching podcasts and marketing courses in colleges yet. And there's already almost another one, right? Another avenue and another platform. So it's not about the papers that you have. It's about the skill sets that you acquire for yourself and moving forward.
And if you're learning, you want to learn to do a podcast, don't learn from us or take any advice, because we're a mess. So, you have your own business, you understand finance. I believe that habits over a long period of time, kind of create our world. So is there anything that you do on a daily basis that's helped you as an entrepreneur and a business owner? What's something that you do every day that's made you successful?
I would say that, from morning routines, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I am not consistent with morning routines. There's a lot of variables, and my wife just gave birth to our first baby boy. So
that'll jack you up.
There's a lot, yeah. So, so what I would say, the one thing though that I think that has helped me a lot and does on a daily basis, is knowing my purpose and knowing my why. So every day, before I go to work, I understand why I'm doing this and my purpose of what I want to try and achieve and what I want to do. And that kind of realigns my thinking, and then I plan my day. That has really, really helped me, because once you're crystal clear on your why every single day, and your purpose and what you want to do, planning your day becomes a lot easier, and it really makes it easier in the sense that I know exactly what I need to accomplish today to stay aligned. I've tried many different things. And sometimes when you just jot those down, there's a lot of courses that you just write it down. It not necessarily is not going to do you any good if you don't review that daily or even just think about it. So I think that's the one habit that I've done consistently. Like I said, the other morning routines, even the working out thing, I try to squeeze it in when I can right now with the schedule that I have. So it might not be morning, it might be afternoon or late evening. But I think being crystal clear on my why and my purpose is something that has really steered me in the right direction every day. So
this is your first kid?
Yeah, first one.
So you got it. There's this thing looming over your head that you may or may not have heard about. It's called Dadbod. So be careful, man. You're going to have to, watch out for the 12-ounce curls and get back to the 30-pounders. All right,
This is true. This is true. And I do joke with my friends right now too. I say, gotta get rid of this dad bod right now.
So you've been in various businesses. What's the biggest mistake that you've made that you can inform people on so they can avoid that and shorten the learning curve?
Oh boy, I've made a lot, but trust is a big one. Trust but verify.
We got a Reaganite here, Gino.
Oh boy, it is. It's one thing. The other thing that I would just say is due diligence it's just so important. And yes, you're going to take a lot of courses. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to jot down everything. There are going to be unknown variables in there.
So I want to dovetail back to something you said that is really vital. I think you're talking about risking the investor.
Yeah.
It goes right into being risk in the sponsor in the investment side and the real estate side. So,
right.
And you talk about due diligence. That's why I'm bringing it up right now, because due diligence is really important. And that's where I made my first mistake. It wasn't me. It wasn't the investment. It was the person I put it with. So it's
right.
in multifamily real estate. When you get into multifamily real estate, don't look at if it's an 8% cash-on-cash return or 1.4 debt coverage ratio. Look at the person who's running the sponsor. Does he have credibility? Has he done it before? Is he ethical? Are you going to get your money back? Focus on all those things and focus on due diligence, because I think most of us have made that biggest mistake in businesses by not doing our due diligence on the investment and on the sponsor also.
And then go back to the framework. This is maybe a shameless plug, but buy right, manage right, and finance right. If you go back to our multifamily investing framework, if you know the parameters of buy right, and then you get into the manage right. Okay, who's the manager? Who's going to be running this? And then you're financing. Get the long-term financing. If you can, whatever investment you're getting into, if there's a framework that people have said, okay, this is tried, this is tested, follow that framework and then vet each section of it, because that's essentially what ours comes down to. And multifamily is a three-legged stool. It really comes down to that: the buy right, manage right, and finance right. So I think that just is piling on top of Gino's point there, but it matters. So
yeah. Absolutely, and that is so true what you guys just said. And by the way, you do a fantastic job in your book too of outlining that. I really enjoyed it. Is the checklist, and you guys talk about a three-legged stool. So I'll just throw another one too for just one that I use and talk to my clients about too. And it's the control. The first thing is the control of an investment. And when there is a sponsor for a real estate deal as well, that's by doing your due diligence on him, because we can't all be experts in the fields that we're on, and sometimes we have another focus. My focus is my business, so I don't necessarily put deals together for real estate. I vet my sponsors and I do my due diligence on them, so that way I have more control over the outcome. The other thing that I would say is, from a risk management point of view, is always look at how you protect the downside and how you transfer risk, because really good investors, you look at Warren Buffett. He never, ever goes into a transaction if he doesn't know how to manage his position, protects his downside, or transfers risks over to a different party or a third party that he's not willing to take on himself. By the way, he owns a ton of insurance companies. He loves the business model because he understands managing risk. Mm-hmm. And then the third point that I would say is, economic efficiency. And what I mean by that is we've touched on wealth destroying and wealth eroding factors. Understand that you need to be positioned, or does this investment position me in a certain way that is tax efficient, that combats inflation, that is limiting and reducing fees and costs from parties involved. Now, listen, I don't have a problem paying money to a good lawyer because, believe it or not, those guys will, protect you when you really do need it, but you don't have to get crazy about it. So all those things kind of factor in. So those are like just the three-legged stool that, I would just add to that too, that I would use.
Jake, I want to make one more plug for the whole life policy. And I think let's round this out by saying that real estate hits the three big things. I think whole life hits them more. What Kiyosaki talks about, the three things: leverage, liquidity, and control. Leverage, obviously, in whole life and real estate are great. Liquidity, not so much in real estate, although we refi and pull our money out. But liquidity in the whole life policy is great, and control. So, whole life is really up there at a higher, standing than real estate. Everyone can see real estate, touch real estate. I think that's why it's easier for people to understand. But if they really can wrap their mind around, this whole life policy, I think they should really give MC a call, reach out to him, say, hey, listen, I'm interested. Start small. It's like buying a duplex. You don't have to go all in on your first shot. Test it out. Test the waters, especially if you're young. Try that mind shift. You see there's a lot of poor. There's 95% of the people out there are poor. Find out what the other 5 or 6% are doing and start emulating them, and stop following the crowd and start doing what the rich people are doing if you want to become rich. If you don't want to become rich, shut the podcast off and don't listen to us, because that's what we're here for. Yeah. We're here to create wealth. We're here to be able for you guys to move down to St. Augustine like me and do what you want to do when you want to do it. Not work less, work more, work what you're passionate about, create value, create wealth, and have a great time doing it.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, guys. We're just trying to open your eyes to other strategies that are out there, because I think obviously you don't talk politics with family. Like, everyone hears that, right? I think no, but I think the next most confrontational thing is start talking about like insurance, right? Because no, it's true. I mean, I've had conversations with people, and they're like,
"So true,
term, whole life, I'll kill you, man," and it's just they get nuts about it. So, guys, listen, we're opening your eyes to stuff that's out there. You can use it, you cannot use it, but we're just trying to educate people out there. So everyone just take it with a grain of salt. If it's for you, great. If not, great too. We're just throwing it out there, because I just I was sitting back thinking about this, and I've had some conversations with people, and they got crazy about it. No, so and so, like you mentioned Susie Orman or whatever. So and so mentioned this, and this is the way it is, and it's a spoken word. All right. So we're gonna stay away from politics. We're gonna stay away from religion a little bit. We're gonna softly touch on insurance, and then we'll leave it there.
Well, listen,
right?
you just mentioned term life, right?
Yeah.
And everyone says that's the cheapest way. Unfortunately, 98% of the people, the term life runs out, and you just spent thousands of dollars over the course of 20 years, and it's not realized. You need insurance when you get older. That's the problem. People get term life when they're 30. By the time they're 50, and when they have to renew at 50, it's so much more expensive. So just keep an open mind. Cheaper does not always mean better. Price and value are two completely different things. So let's keep that in order. I'm going to plug it. I see MC smiling and going, wow, this guy gets it. He could sell a ton to me. Unfortunately, I already have it. I'm trying to sell it to our listeners because, I think there's so many benefits. And I'll throw another one at you, Jake. A lot of people who are wealthy buy whole life for their children because it's really inexpensive. So by the time they're 18 years old, they've got cash value in that policy. The child has a death benefit, and he's got insurance. So by the time he's ready to go to college, hey, college is paid for, or there's a big chunk paid off. But that's taboo. You can't buy that for your kid. That's not what it's for. It's just the vehicle to getting you from point A to point B. So
the one thing, and I'm not 100% positive on it because I've been speaking with my insurance broker about it, I think that we probably did not touch on is the end-of-life care. And I think that's tied into a lot of these policies. And that's one thing for you guys to really think about, because it's going to get more expensive, and when you're older, you want to be responsible. We're all about taking care of ourselves, being the most responsible person in the room. So if you're 85 and you got to go in the nursing home or something, you you want something there that's going to cover that. And I think there's certain policies that they can get into that without, going off. Oh, shit, here we go. This is not going to end.
I got 6 kids, bro. If one of them ain't taking care of me, I've done something wrong. So hopefully that's my end of care.
No, you don't. But you don't want to put that burden on them, though, right?
I'm just kidding.
So you want to be, you're a father, you're a provider, and you want to be responsible. So I don't know where the hell that guy just came from.
I'm just trying, bro.
Wow. I don't even know.
You guys
anymore.
make a lot of really good points too, and it's funny that you mentioned about the insurance because all the movies too. It's so funny that they always feel sorry for the guy selling insurance or they're making fun of him, right? But Gino, you made a very good point about price, cost, and value, and that's another thing. Not just what I'm talking about, but all other investments. There's a huge difference between those three, and I think what I do and what my firm does is, this is overall planning to hit the entire foundation. You talk about legacy, and that's a topic that's very, very close to near and dear to my heart, and something that I'd like to try and leave a legacy for my child and my family. And that's one of the ways to do it. And the other great point that you guys made was, listen, if everybody is doing the same thing and having the same results, and there's a really, really small group of people that is doing something different and having different results and having a lot of success, why would we do everything that people are doing that are not successful? So I think what I try to do and what you guys do phenomenal is, there's a blueprint out there. There's a different set of rules for everyone. There's a blueprint out there, and all that I try to do was try to figure out what they're doing and implement some of the same principles within my own life and help my clients do the same.
I agree.
Whew! Wow.
We could go on for another hour about insurance.
Cuckoo nutty show today. I don't even know what to say.
No, that's been great.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I got one more question because I know we talked about insurance books, but I always like to pick people's brain for really cool books they've read because I think it was Chris Urso recommended the Powerhouse Principles. I'm reading that one right now, really enjoying it. Is there any general business or real estate book that you've read that you want to recommend to folks?
Yeah, I'll just mention The Creature of Jekyll Island again by Mr. G. Edward Griffin because I think we all try to make money, and money is just a currency value coming back to us. But, people work, they get in their cars every day and they commute an hour and a half or 2 hours to work. They sit at a desk. They work for 8 to 9 hours, have a boss screaming at them. They commute back for money to pay their bills, and they don't know where money comes from and what money is. And the history of money. So I think that's a very, very good part. It was a great part of my development. Really opened my eyes to understanding, wow, this has been the history of money. It's a medium of exchange, and that's all it is. It's it's a way that we exchange values with each other and how money's changed and the shape that money's in. And he talks about the current global financial system. I think you'll get the hair on your back will stand up when you read certain of the passages because it was written in the 90s.
Oh, cool.
And what was written in that book of how he saw crises play out in the coming next 15 to 20 years, it'll be an eye-opener. It's now basically, here's how it happened.
That's probably like The Richest Man in Babylon for me, Gino. I love that one. So I will check it out. Have you read it, Gino?
I haven't. No, I'm definitely gonna read it.
Cool.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Listen, it's been real. Anything else? Going once?
Yes. How can they get a hold of MC? At least let them get a nice conversation about insurance. And we finally met a nice insurance guy, like a nice lawyer. I mean, they're like oxymorons, right?
Oh, come on. Now, insurance guys are cool. Lawyers suck. All right?
Yeah, no, thank you, guys. So cashflowninja.com would be a primary platform. Easy to spell. Valhalla Wealth, which is the vikingheaven.com, is my wealth firm. But I would say cashflowninja.com, make that the primary platform. info@cashflowninja.com to contact me. I put a ton of free resources out there, educational, even if you just peek around and listen to some of the shows that I've done discussing these concepts and different things. And also in the show, I have people on there that cash flow everything from gold and silver, coffee farms in Panama, digital currencies, a lot of Bitcoin experts on there, a lot of many different entrepreneurs, and financial experts. So if that's something that interests you, you might find value there. But, as far as the strategies that we've spoken about, please feel free to reach out. My goal is just to educate. You shouldn't invest a single cent into something that you don't understand. So I put out a ton of resources, webinars, podcasts, and so forth. So I look forward to anyone reaching out to me.
Sounds great. And one last plug for Jake and myself. We are starting to syndicate deals. So we're talking about the sponsors.
Muy pequeño.
Real small. So, we're finally starting to syndicate deals. We said,
toe in the water.
We're getting
kind of
into big
lukewarm.
deals. Yeah, so if anybody wants any information, want to reach out to me about what we're looking at, hit me up at jakeandgino.com, and I'd love to discuss with you the opportunities we have in front of us. So I had a great time in the show. This was an awesome show. I learned a lot more about whole life and what you can do, the power. It's all about leverage, liquidity, and control. And I just want to thank MC for being an awesome guest today. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was a blast. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
We trust that you enjoy the Wheelbarrow Profits podcast. Visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. See you next time when Jake and Gino share more of their investing secrets with you.